Hey guys, today I'm gonna be showing you what is my commander and what's in my 99. So I recently have been getting more into making my own decks instead of just winning off of precons, which yes, I know is surprising, but precons actually are really good nowadays. I was recently looking at the Jeskai Striker precon from Tarkir Dragonstorm, and I noticed that I had a card in it called Elsha Threefold Master. And the original deck is a spell slinger, like I could take out the card from the precon and actually, deep dive with it and make a new upgraded version. So I tore apart my precons. I had the dog meat precon, I've had some Aether Drift precons I ripped apart, and I just started digging at the best equipment I could find. And this is all basically just equipment I've already had. I didn't buy anything off like TCG Player or Card Kingdom. This is all just cards I had in bulk. So, this deck is more than homemade. So after, I bought the precon and took out Elsha, I was really thinking about how I can make it pop off because, the built-in prowess and trample and just whenever it deals combat damage in general, you make a lot of tokens. So I was thinking, instead of spells, what if I just juiced up Elsha and made monks those other way? And over here is my Architect deck list that shows, the 100 cards I have. And we're just going to go over it, and then I'm going to play some Go Fish and see, what the deck looks like whenever you draw your first 7. So we're going to do a simple look at it, and then we're going to deep dive into, the other kind of categories like draw, advantage, whatever. And so we're going to start off with our commander, Elsha. That trample just make sure, any like keywords already in a commander is worth it. Prowess, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +1/+1. So any equipments I cast, prowess trigger. And then whenever Elsha deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 white monks. So usually, turn 4 or 5, I have, the prowess triggers and equipped artifacts. And I'm pumping out monks left and right. Sorry, so Ballast Collar. The Death Touch and Lifelink makes it people don't really want to block Elsha because of the Death Touch. And the Lifelink too, it gets a bit out of hand whenever you start amping up with a Voltron. Alright. Dragonfire Blade, +2/+2, of course, to add to it. And then the hexproof from monocolored, so, mono black, mono blue, whatever. Super strong, Explorer's Scope, land advantage, making sure that you never miss a land drop. That Ward 1, the haste is nice, of course, because more keywords, but the Ward 1 is just another way to make sure Elsha stays on the board, because that's, her whole thing. Soul Ring, Wayfarer's Bauble, land advantage, plus the prowess trigger, it's worth it. Adaptive Omni Tool, so 1/1 for each artifact I control, and as you can see, of course, there's 32 in here. And then also card advantage by putting artifacts into your hand, super strong. Arcane Signet, okay, some more keywords like flying and haste, slap that on Elsha and boom, makes it harder to block. Goggles of Night, more card draw, and prowess trigger, of course. Great sort of tier. Another +1/+1, and makes it harder for people to defend. Because you get that free tap. Valhalla is actually really, really good. So I can make soldier tokens, early on, get some advantage. But the second ability, the equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each creature I control, and which is a common theme in this deck. Basically, just each turn, she gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Junk Jet could be a win condition, I would say, or a game changer. You have all these artifacts on the battlefield that I could sacrifice. And, double, double, double. Lightning Greaves, another Haste and Shroud, just more protection. Sigil of Valor. Whenever it attacks alone, gets +1/+1 for each creature I control. Silver Shroud, can't be blocked. That is a game changer. It's ridiculous. And it also gets Shroud until end of turn. More Hexproof and Hastes. Thran Power Suit, that War 2 and +1/+1 for each aura and equipment. Agility Bobblehead gives my guys where they can't be blocked. Alright. Equipped creature has lifelink, and as long as you have 30 or more life, equipped creature has +5/+5 and indestructible. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to this creature. So the +5/+5 is really good, but also whenever you're playing Commander, you usually always have about 40 life until, or not 40 life, but more than 30 until like turn 5 or 6, because that's when people are building up. So if you get this card early on, boom. Champion's Helm, the +2/+2 is nice, but the Hexproof is really strong. Endurance Bubblehead, indestructible, just in case of any board wipes, which we do have a few board wipes in here. Double Strike, because that goes really well with the Trample. Icon of Ancestry, gives my monks +1/+1, of course. Card Draw with the Intelligence Bubblehead. Perception Bubblehead, more card draw. Plate Armor, +3/+3, and that Ward 1, once again, keeping Elsha on the board. And actually, usually, it's always free to equip because it costs 1 less to activate for other equipment. Spear of Heliod. Besides the prowess trigger, creatures I control get +1/+1 and card or creature removal. Strength Bobblehead, just juicing up our Elsha. Pretty good. Sword of Feast and Famine. So it's only 3 mana. But equipped creature gets +2/+2 and protection from black and green. Whenever it deals combat damage, discard a card, or that player discards a card, and I untap all the lands I control. So, alright, Crystal Skull. I can look at the top card of my library anytime, and I can play historic lands and historic spells from the top. So I have artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic. Mystic Forge, I can look at the top card of my library at any time. Same thing with the Crystal Skull. I can cast artifact spells and colorless spells from the top of my library. Pay a life, exile. So these are all my artifacts to buff up Elsha. This deck doesn't have too many creatures in it because it's more focused on pumping up 1, which is a Voltron deck. But Impassioned Orator, monks plus life gain equals I'm basically unstoppable because I gain more life than people can do damage. Pure Steel Paladin, card draw. The equipment enters the battlefield under my control, draw a card. Just good advantage. And also equipments have equip 0. That is really strong, considering like if my Elsha gets taken out and I want to put her back, same turn, I can equip everything right back on. Alright, we got a SRAM Senior Edificer, of course, the same card draw, except this one's for auras and vehicles, but we don't have any vehicles in here. Another card draw, whenever I cast an aura and equipment, exile top card of my library, I can play that card. which usually isn't equipment, so it just stacks and stacks. Loyal Inventor enters the battlefield. This is kind of like a tutor. I pulled it from a pack, and of course, I'm not going to be paying $40 or $50 for a tutor. I'm exaggerating, of course, but still. Look, search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, and shuffle. Put that card on top of your library. So, of course, Sword of Feast and Famine, or Junk Jet. Slap that bad boy on top. And boom, it's like a homemade tutor. Alright, Mentor of the Meek. Card draw, because my monks always are 1/1 whenever they come in. And usually I have a lot of open mana because the equip fees are so low. I use all that mana to draw cards. And lastly, Elsha of the Infinite. Basically another card advantage, prowess, and I can cast artifacts as if they had flash. I can look at the top card of my library at any time, and if I cast, or I may cast the top card of my library if it's a non-creature, non-land card. Alright, let's get some enchantments and auras, the good stuff. Ethereal Armor gets +1/+1 for each enchantment I control and has first strike. So that first strike mixed with the prowess triggers mixed with the trample is a deadly combo. Wingspan Stride, +1/+1 in flying. Any way to make Elsha unblockable or harder to block, always good. All That Glitters, +1/+1 for each artifact and enchantment I control, which usually is a lot. Call to Serve. This one just, its more primary focus is the flying. But it also gets the +1/+2 on top of the prowess trigger. Alright, Idolized. So whenever this creature attacks alone, of course, like the Sigil of Valor and Horn of Valhalla, equipped creature attacks alone, it gets +X+X, where X is number of non-land permanents I control. So all the monks I make, all the artifacts I have, everything, I just only swing with Elsha. The trample goes through, of course. Just ridiculously strong. Tangible Virtue. Tokens have +1/+1 in vigilance. So not only am I... or usually you just want to use the monks as blockers. Elsha's your main damage output. But with the Intangible Virtue, it makes you want to attack with your monks. Sense of that vigilance, so you can freely swing with your monks, make more monks, and then have the monks that you swung with have vigilance, so they don't get tapped. Rally the Ranks, of course, just more +1/+1s, anthems. Born to Drive, so as long as enchanted permanent is a creature, it gets +1/+1 for each creature I control. So more just +1/+1 for each monk I have, and it stacks and it stacks. Sleep Prison, every deck should at least have like a Ghostly Prison or Propaganda, or just something that unmotivates people to attack you. Angelic Exaltation. Whenever a creature attacks alone, it gets XX, where X is number of creatures I control. So once again, all the monks gives it +X+X, and it gets really out of hand. Alright, and then lastly, Whirlwind of Thought. Whenever I cast a non-creature spell, draw a card, card advantage. Basically, my whole deck is non-creature spells. Alright, going to instants. We have Dispatch. Tap target creature, but if you control 3 or more artifacts, exile that creature. So good board removal. Then we go to Opt. Draw and a quick prowess trigger never hurts anybody. Path to Exile, of course. Swords to Plowshares, of course. These are like the 2 staples to board removal. Essence Capture, anything to get a +1/+1 counter, and usually you don't want your opponents to put out big guys, so Essence Capture is always the way to go. Make your move, artifact, enchantment, or creature removal. Anything's worth it. Unexpected Windfall. As an additional cost, discard a card, and you draw 2 cards and make 2 treasure tokens. So, besides the prowess trigger, you get, 2 cards and 2 treasure tokens. Which the artifacts count towards, Dispatch and Pure Steel Paladin, sorceries, ponder, card draw, and just stacking your deck. Card draw with Cathartic Reunion, card draw again with Expressive Iteration, Compulsive Research, card draw again. This deck is basically just pumping your hand with good equipment. Reconstruct History, return 1 target artifact, up to 1 enchantment, 1 instant, and 1 target sorcery to my hand. So, making sure that I have, because people usually target the Swiftfoot Boots, or people usually target, like the Silver Shroud, and bringing that back will, just piss off the table, which, honestly, this deck does a lot. Hour of Reckoning, destroy all non-token creatures. So, with that, not a lot of people are going to be happy, especially if my whole board is tokens. And then lastly, we have Vanquish the Horde, which is just destroy all creatures, which with my, bobblehead and whatnot, I can have indestructible. We have a lot of dual lands. Now, the Buried Ruin, return artifact card from graveyard to my hand. Just another way, kind of like a Reconstruct History, where, I put, a targeted Silver Shroud costume back into my hand whenever it gets destroyed. Dual lands, put any mana of color. Everybody knows what a command center does. Lots of dual lands, Path of Ancestry, because I do have a monk. Besides that, the Thriving Bluffs. I love the Thriving cards. They're so fun to use. Just a lot of dual lands. There's that Artifact land, which I can play from the top from my Crystal Skull. And then the Windbrisk Heist just gives me card advantage, with also I'll be swinging with a lot of monks because it's a whatever, so 3 or more creatures, that's easy to obtain. Alright, so we're going to export our deck. We're going to download it, of course. Perfect. And today we're going to be using Cockatrice. So we're going to create a lobby, open, load our deck, go to downloads. Here we go. 35 lands, check. Cool. So this is Cockatrice. It's a super simple, formatted way to play Commander and just Magic, and honestly probably other game modes. I haven't really done too much research on it, but me and my friends play Cockatrice all the time. It's super easy to use, and yeah. So we're going to draw our 7. Nice. Cool. So we're going to play this, and we're gonna choose the other color, enters tapped, and untap, draw. Enters tapped. We can scry 1, and we can actually scry and move to bottom of library. Alright. Untap, draw. Why is my Windbrisk Heist in Japanese? No. Ignore this. Go away. Alright. So So going to play this, enters tapped, and I'll tap 2 to play an adaptive Omni tool. With that, I untap and draw for turn. Play a Minas Tirith. Maybe should I? Sure. Enters tapped, and I'm gonna do 2 white for a SRAM. Senior Edifice, or should I do that now? No. So, play a Minas Tirith for turn, because it's a legendary creature. And there's untapped. And then I'm going to tap 2 for a Great Sword of Tyr. And with that SRAM, I draw a card. So now I untap, I draw. 1, 2, so blue, red, white, play my commander, Elsha. And I'll tap this for a white. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, it gets a +1/+1. And I pass. So untap, draw. So I'm gonna pay a white and cast Ethereal Armor. So it gets prowess trigger. Gets +1/+1 for each enchantment I control. So also I draw a card because of SRAM. I'll tap 2 for to equipped adaptive Omni tool. Gets +1/+1 for each artifact I control. So 1, 2. And I would swing, so it gets +1/+1. I would tap, if they had a blocking creature, and then look at 6 cards, reveal an artifact, put it in my hand. So I would put this Arcane Signet into my hand. And then I make 6 monks. And it is turn 4. And I already have a 5/5, a 2/2, and 6 1/1s with prowess. Now, the monks with prowess get out of hand. So, this is what usually a turn 5 looks like. So, I let's see, pay 2 for Lightning Greaves. These guys get a prowess trigger. This guy gets a prowess trigger. Already has one. And another +1/+1 because I control an artifact. And I draw a card because it's around. And then I tap this and a white. I choose monks, so these guys get a +1/+1. Control. Boom. Same with Elsha. Power and toughness. And then also prowess trigger. So that's 2 prowess triggers. And this is usually what almost all actually gets another, because of the rally ranks and Lightning Greaves for my Ethereal Armor and Adaptive Omni tool. And usually this is what turn 5 or 6 looks like. You swing with your Elsha, which is an 11/11 for strike trample. And then, you swing with your 6 4/4s, and usually you take a lot of people out. So you make, your 11 monks. And these guys are all, +1/+1s. And it gets really out of hand really quick. And, I'm really proud of myself how I made this deck, because I opened up Archidec, or no, I didn't even open up Archidec. I opened up, what did I do? Right, I went to Target, because I was fiending for magic cards. I was like, dude, I can't keep winning with dog meat. I love Voltron, and I need to change something. So I just went to Target. I looked at one of the precons. It was the last one left. And, I was looking at it, and it's like, I don't like casting spells. I'm not a fan of instances. I'm not a fan of sorceries, which, that Jeskai Striker is based around that. And I'm like, I don't really enjoy this. So what I did was I looked on the back, and I saw Elsha Threefold Master was like, the secondary commander in that deck. And I was like, token factory, token factory, token factory, tokens. But the prowess caught my eye, because it doesn't say, whenever you cast an instant. It just says whenever you cast a non-creature. So the fact that, the prowess triggers also, because the whole thing you want is just one Elsha to be, jack and ripped and humongous. So anything to get Elsha, those additional +1/+1s, because basically every artifact you cast potentially gives you an additional monk, like just for playing it, not even equipping it. And with that, turn 5 or 6, it gets really out of hand. So I'm really proud of myself about the way I saw the back of the box, and I was like, Elsha, that looks really interesting, and it's really cheap to pump out, and it's Jeskai. So that's what I did. I went to Architect. I went through my bulk, chose out a bunch of artifacts. I ripped my dog meat deck to shreds. I went through my ether drift and took out some tools from there, and yeah. But that's what's in my 99. I hope it's up to speed with modern techs, modern gameplay in Commander. It's not like turn 3, whenever I gain life, you lose life, but whenever you lose life, I gain life. Infinite combo. It just never seemed appealing. But on the other hand, turn 5, 10, 2/2 monks, I'm not complaining. Maybe my opponents complain. That's why my sister doesn't like playing with me, or my girlfriend. But in my books, that's a win, because it just means that, hey, I have a brain. Long story short, this is what is in my 99, and I'll tell you what, these 99 cards of pure annoyance is really fun to play against. And if you want to, get this deck printed out, buy the singles for it, I will be more than glad to leave it in the bio. Feel free to check it out. It's not really worth $180 like Architect says it is. It's probably more like 130. Any prints? Oh, interesting. Maybe it might be 180. I don't know. But regardless, thanks for watching. Thanks for seeing what's in my 99. And I will let you know what my next deck is. But I will see you next time. Bye-bye. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised by the price. The different arts, Architect is kind of hard to tell, because if I actually did the arts, it would not be worth, 180. But also the salt score, I think it should go up. That's just me. And, it plays bracket 2. It's upgraded, and not a lot of people like playing against it. But, it's not a turn 3 win. It's nothing like that. And this is all stuff I had in bulk. And really the only thing I bought besides, like the dog meat precon and whatnot, really the only thing I went out of my way for was the Tarkir Dragonstorm precon. Um, but I don't like buying singles, and I definitely don't like, printing proxies. So with that, I went ahead and just jumbled it all together.